any four-sided polygon or any four-sided figure which follows this criteria that both pairs of opposite sides are parallel to one another. So this figure is called a parallelogram. Here both pairs of opposite sides, that is these two lines are parallel to one another, and similarly these two lines also are parallel to one another. So this is a parallelogram. The purpose of this video is to explore whether there is any relationship between the angles of a parallelogram. So we have four angles in a parallelogram because there are four vertices, hence four angles. So is there any relationship between these angles? So let's look at the parallel lines. In order to find if there is a relationship, let's look at one pair of parallel lines, and let's say that this line is the transversal, that is, it cuts the two parallel lines. And what is the property which we observe here? These two angles. These two angles are called as the corresponding angles. The corresponding angles are equal. When a transversal cuts a pair of parallel lines, the corresponding angles are equal. So this property can be used to find the relationship in a parallelogram. So let me look at a parallelogram now. So this is a parallelogram. I'll just extend the sides of the parallelogram in order to understand better. So I'm extending the sides and extending the transversals also. Right? So this is also extended. Now let us observe this property that the corresponding angles are equal. Which are the corresponding angles? Now let me call these two lines as 1 and 2 and the vertical ones as 3 and 4. So these are the corresponding angles. Right? The angles which I have marked in green here are corresponding angles. When 1 and 2 are parallel to one another, and when 3 is the transversal, these two angles are corresponding to one another and hence they are equal. Now look at 3 and 4. They are also parallel. This being a parallelogram, lines 3 and 4 also are parallel to one another. And if you look at 1 as the transversal, this angle corresponds to this angle and hence they are equal. Right? So now we have three green angles which are equal to one another. Now look at this angle. What is this? When two lines intersect one another, the vertically opposite angles. The vertically opposite angles are equal. Right? So the green ones which I have marked here, these two are equal to one another. Now we have arrived at a very important property of parallelograms. Now I will color this in a different color, these two angles. Right? We have concluded that the opposite angles of a parallelogram are equal to one another. What have we concluded by this? The opposite angles of a parallelogram, and let me say any parallelogram. I'll justify the use of any just now. So the opposite angles of any parallelogram are equal, and this is the property which we wanted to explore and we have done it. Now let us look at the other shapes of parallelograms which we have seen so far. This is the normal shape which we always look at. So this opposite angles equal applies to any parallelogram. It can be this. Here the sides are not equal to one another. Now let me have a parallelogram where all sides are equal. All four sides are equal to one another. I'll just change the orientation so that it's easier for me to draw. Yeah, this one. So here all four sides are equal to one another, and at the same time it's parallel also. Opposite sides are parallel. So it's a parallelogram and we call it a rhombus. So this property of opposite angles being equal is applicable to a rhombus also by the same argument. You can use the same argument and arrive at this conclusion. And this property is also applicable to a square. Here also the opposite sides are equal in length and at the same time. Not only the opposite sides being equal in length, at the same time every angle is 90-degree angle. A square is just a modified rhombus where the angles are also 90 degree. So, and this property, opposite angles of a parallelogram are equal, is satisfied here, and here the angles are also 90 degrees, so they are equal. And what about a rectangle? A rectangle is also a parallelogram where every angle is again 90 degree. It's right angled. So this property is applicable to a rectangle as well. So that is why I use the word any here, because any shape which the parallelogram takes, the opposite angles would be always equal. This property is a very important property of parallelograms, which would be applicable to many problems with which we can solve many problems, and we will do one by one in our upcoming videos. Thank you.